Both of us
Hey!
hanging on been mentioned on Instagram.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Very good. Very, very
Thank
good.
you.
Living the dream.
Awesome to see you both. Awesome to see you both. Thanks for having me
too.
on.
Thank you for coming on. This will be a good little episode, we reckon.
Yeah,
it will.
A natty scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's funny actually because it's nice just to kind of get a bit of a spread across different platforms with you guys as well, because I talk about this with so many other people in our field, if you like, and more people need to hear about it. So I think, why the hell not? Let's just have a bit of a party and have some fun.
I mean, we only get one viewer, and it is Dom's mum, but we're going to be okay.
Shout out to Dom's mum.
She's my biggest fan. She's also my smallest fan because she's my only fan.
So,
Well, it's funny because I'm doing like a takeover for I've got a girl who does my pro prep socials, and she gets a few of my clients and me and Andrew every now and again to do like a takeover of my own page, and you're on the takeover today, so I just post up on the actual page because you fall exactly on this day where I'm doing the takeover, so you'll get a little bit of love from that as well.
yes, excellent.
That's when you know you're big time. You have someone else running your socials.
Yeah, that is big time, that.
None of that sat trying to get a quick Instagram post up at the bus stop.
I know.
I do mine when I'm on the toilet normally.
Honestly, the bathroom is my office. It's where all of my emails get replied to.
Same.
I'm pretty sure that my other half would say the same, but no, I mean, I do all my own personal ones. It's just the business page. I can't do it all, guys. Like, it's too hard to do it all. I mean, I tried in the beginning and I wasn't as consistent as I wanted to be, and so it was a no-brainer, and it's been the best decision ever. So it's worth it. It's worth it, definitely.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of effort running a social media. Like, even just running one on your own at one page, and then if you've got it on different platforms and you've got like a personal and a business one as well, it can take over your life.
100%.
It seriously can. It's a total full-time job. It's just really stressful. Like, even when I speak to her, I'm like, how do you do this? Because she's got 3 or 4 clients that she manages the socials for. But even that, like, I can do it.
No.
You must have to be very organised.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not organised.
So, how are you both? How's things? How's life? How's things? Are we going to get into that in this podcast?
Yeah, we'll get into everything. Dom, you go first, mate.
Well, I've just moved flat this week, so I'm really happy. I'm in an actual nice flat now. It's just been renovated. I've got a balcony just in time for summer. So, yeah, everything's pretty good for me. Although, like, Brexit's kind of messed about with my study, which is meant to start this month. So our foods that we're giving to participants are manufactured in Europe, so we just can't get them here. So they're sat in customs somewhere defrosting at the moment.
Yeah.
So there's a few speed bumps, but everything's going as well as it can do, really. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, good.
Matt, how's everything with you?
Going well, mate. Going well. Living out in the countryside. Got my dog. Got my business.
Nice.
Can't complain. I don't look like I train anymore because I don't. But we deal with it.
Have you got the time? When would you have the time, though? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the nearest gym's like a 25, 30-minute drive away, but it's a 24-hour gym. But it's not a pure gym, which is good. So it's not too bad. But yeah, we're just cracking on at the minute. Just waiting for things to return to normal again.
I know, it's been such a bizarre year, hasn't it? It's like
very strange.
It's just even, I just don't think anything will be quite the same again, really, after this. I think we're seeing this huge change in just everything from the way people work to, I think, how we'll even see corporate buildings and things change to flats and things like that, because it's just changed the whole dynamic of work. And what if companies now can see an opportunity to not spend astronomical costs on premises, and most people want that kind of work-life balance to work from home, they're going to do it, aren't they?
100%.
That's what my brother's company did that right at the beginning of the first lockdown. After a month, they realised productivity had actually increased. So they just got rid of their offices and said, right, we're just indefinitely working from home from now on. Like maybe in a few years we'll get an office again.
Yeah, a lot of companies will follow suit on that.
Completely. Yeah, it's weird, like, because you guys, whereabouts are you guys now? Where are you living?
I'm still in Leeds.
I'm in.
Right by the university.
Yeah, I thought you were still in Leeds, Dom. Whereabouts are you, Matt?
Like Doncaster way, so I'm in a little village called
Doncaster, yeah. Well, I mean, I moved back up north, like, God, it's going 3 years ago now.
How long ago?
Yeah, it's
Where did that 3 years disappear?
I have no idea. Like, it's bizarre because I'm speaking to you, and it feels like yesterday that I had you in the studio. It's bonkers. Yeah. It's bonkers. Like when I think about it, but yeah, it's just coming up 3 years. Yeah. I'm like right in the north of Scotland in Aberdeen, and it's mental how, like, because there's not a lot of money that's been injected from like central Scotland up here, so it's like just a kind of slow decaying sort of place. It's really weird because literally everything through lockdown has gone up here. Like every shop, every main brand, we've got no department stores left. It's so weird.
I saw you posted something on Facebook about one of the big department stores shutting, and it's like literally everything in Aberdeen's disappearing. Like if this goes, we've literally nothing left.
Yeah, I had a passionate day that day. I was like keyboard warrior, like somebody listened to my story. Yeah, it is a bit depressing because, like, especially when because I love it up here. It's so beautiful and it's just such a amazing place. But it just shows you that these places, kind of the back and beyond, are just kind of getting left. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's mad.
It's more of an afterthought.
I feel like most places are an afterthought. Like certainly the English government down in Parliament, they only seem to care about Westminster and London. Anywhere outside of London is kind of just like, meh, fuck them.
Yeah. Let the Northerners fucking die, bollocks.
And then if you're up in Scotland, then they care even less. Like, they seem to hate the Scottish at the moment. Like, we're just taking over an entire country because they don't like Nicola Sturgeon.
I know, but this is the thing, though. As if it couldn't be any worse, right? So, the like English government hate Nicola Sturgeon, right? Hate her. She's just the worst thing known to man. But then up here, and I don't know if you've heard much about it, but our Prime Minister or Prime Woman, whatever you want to call her, she is now being put through this major scandal for being shifty as fuck with the last First Minister of Scotland. And now they're basically going head to head in a big fight up here, which makes it all even worse because it's like a squabble match and just Scotland's just left with these idiots puppeting it, whilst the rest of the whole of the country is like, haha, look at you guys up there just being complete idiots trying to be independent and do this, but you can't even control your own country. It's bonkers. Like,
that's politics all over, though, isn't it? Like, your normal person's just being screwed over because of some rich person having games in a personal squabble with another rich person.
Yeah.
And all in the meantime, you can't feed your kids.
Yay.
Yeah.
Great Britain, what a farce.
Let's just put them in a room and let them fucking fight to the death.
Honestly, we just need the Hunger Games of it, don't we?
I'm telling you, if I ever run for Prime Minister, shit's going to get real.
Matt, please do. I'd vote for you.
First thing that's going to happen is Matt Hancock gets publicly executed and the rest of them fight to the death. Vote for Matt.
Let's go French Revolution on them.
Absolutely. I mean, it is crazy what's going on. Like, it feels like we're in a real period of kind of change. Like somebody described it to me the other day that we're collectively going almost through this depression and like the dark night. Do you know what I mean? It's like things are just the whole way in which we're hearing about this cancel culture and then now being told we have to have these vaccine certificates and this kind of Big Brother feel is like dawning. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing.
And then the terrifying thing is people are just walking blindly into it, aren't they?
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Nobody's saying anything or doing anything. Like, and I'm kind of almost waiting for the civil unrest, and it's just never come.
Yeah, like when are the riots going to happen?
I know.
Like when the rumours of the vaccine passports first came out months ago, anyone that was coming out and speaking out against it, you labelled as like anti-vax and a conspiracy theorist and a quack. It's like, go put your tinfoil hat on. And like every time one of these conspiracy theories has been predicted, it then goes and happens.
It happens.
And then like everyone's still just there, oh no, Boris is doing the best he can. They're doing brilliant jobs. It's like, okay, so they've not just given billions of pounds away to the mates. They've not missed meetings. They've not ignored the science. Like, they're not just constantly lying to you. Like, have you just forgotten all of the shit stuff that they've done over the last year?
Yeah.
People just don't seem to care.
It's just playing on, it's fear, isn't it? They're playing, they're like spoon feeding to the kind of, no disrespect, but to the lowest denominator in society, to like the weakest people, right? So, and they're just basically pandering to their needs and sort of saying, you know, how terrible this is. Because, and it's like Andrew said this to me the other day, and I think it's completely right. Smart people, like intelligent people, think other people will speak up about it, but nobody ever does. And then the people who aren't smart haven't even had that thought to think about speaking up for anything because they don't know. So like nobody's really doing anything. Like I'm listening to so many people talk about this topic, like, and whether they're more on the conspiracy side or not, you're still like, well, why are you not out in the streets? Like, I think the only person that I've seen doing something is a guy in Manchester called Paul, what's his name? I'll have to find it and I'll share it with you guys. But he literally got a mass, like not a protest, it was like a peaceful protest, but in the second lockdown. And hundreds of people turned up for that, like out of nowhere. Like it was like this kind of big march that they did. And then the second one got shut down and he's proposing another one for September. But he's like the only kind of activist that I've seen trying to do something about this. But yeah, anyway, I'm as passionate as you guys about this, obviously. So
yeah, the only one I've seen doing it is Nathan De Asher. Have you seen?
He's really big. He's got raided.
Big on it now.
Yeah.
And it's
even like the people that are like trying to have a voice, like Nick Capo, he got found out to be lying very quickly when De Asher was asking for the money, didn't he? Yeah. He was like, oh, why have you suddenly deleted all of your social media?
Exactly.
Why are you now having to give all this money back? Maybe you don't care about this as much as you're making out.
Maybe you're seeing the gain yourself, and that's kind of where this is all going.
I don't want to slag him off too much, but it does seem like it started out with good intentions, and now it's just for Instagram clout.
Yeah.
Just trying to get more publicity around it. I mean, I might be wrong about the guy, and if he wants to come at me, then he can come at me, but from the outside looking in, it looks like it's just Instagram clout. He's trying to be a politician now.
Yeah.
And it was about saving lives and saving people's gyms and businesses, and now it's more about fighting the government to make him look better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's unfortunately started off with good intentions and got lost along the way.
Yeah.
He's Sam and Frodo now wandering through the mountains of Mordor waiting for Gollum.
Something like that.
Can't believe I just made that reference.
Always make a Lord of the Rings. Mate, don't be ashamed.
It was quite good.
Thank you. Surprisingly good.
Don't be ashamed of the Lord of the Rings reference, mate. It's the fucking one.
It is the bomb.
Yeah. Right, so let's get into the actual podcast because we've been going full on about politics now. So, Steff, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Okay, so, right. Well, I'm Steff Noble, and I am a pro figure competitor in the natural bodybuilding field, in the natural bodybuilding shows. So I'm a pro with WNBF in the fit body class and DFAC in the figure class. I've been competing for about, since 2012. So a fair few years have been on the circuit. I also run a coaching company called Pro Prep Coaching with my better half, Dr. Andrew Chappelle, and our sort of ethos is about giving even kind of the very first timer a professional approach to stepping on stage and that whole journey right the way through to getting there. And I started working alongside him about 4 years ago, and we have an awesome team of people doing that. And then on top of that, I'm also a national touring posing coach, which is actually where I initially met Dom. Where I go around the country and of course I'm specifically teaching based on sort of my background in performance and dance and the anatomy, coaching for posing for all classes, both male and female, for the different federations. So that's that's something I'm very passionate about, is the presentation and sort of the aesthetic side of getting on stage. And so, yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview of what I am and what I do.
It does indeed. Thank you very much. I've got one question. Why did you start bodybuilding? That's probably my favourite question to ask a bodybuilder. Like, what was your motivation, your inspiration? What made you want to be a bodybuilder?
The transition from being a dancer to a bodybuilder, at the surface, for somebody that's not experienced in those two sports, could seem like quite a transition. Like, where's the similarity between, you know, classical dancing to grinding it out in the gym 12 months a year?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'll try and answer both. So I'll take yours first on, because it kind of leads into why I started. So I was a professional dancer. I was dancing multidisciplines, and I think, to give the listener a bit of background, my history in dance was training 4 or 5 times a week in the studio. So I was like dancing technical dance. As part of that, I went to a dance boarding school when I was younger as well. So as part of that, there was a lot of conditioning involved in things like Pilates and core work. And you had to still do strength training to benefit just the muscular ability of, like, your leg work, for example, going up in point shoes and things like that. So there was basics there of the training, but in a different discipline. So for me, like, the training and sort of the whole physical pushing yourself, challenging yourself, learning to sort of become the best at sport, if you want to take dance as my sport, was everything to me. That was all it was. And when I took a step away from professional dance, I needed to continue that competitive process in a way, but by doing something physical. And it was about 2010, 9 to 10, I'd moved to Leeds. I was working for a company at the time doing creative education, and I was also doing my PT at the time, because it was something I was really keen to do based on my interest in it. Transferred over to this gym in Leeds. It was actually just outside. It was a proper rough and ready little bodybuilding gym, not a mainstream place at all. And that was where I just walked through the door, and there was like bodybuilder there, you know, all the pictures on the wall of the different bodybuilders. The kit was just kind of your whatever you could get from your secondhand gyms across the country, you know, and it was like that sort of vibe. And instantly I was totally like, this is wicked. I absolutely love this vibe. I like the energy. And I just got stuck into training really passionately. The first goal wasn't bodybuilding. The first goal was a fat loss goal I wanted to get to sub 10% to go on a holiday to Brazil. That was kind of the first goal. And I got kind of hooked into the conditioning process. And then this is where it comes to your question, Matt, how did I get started? Somebody came to me in the gym, was like, you've got a pretty athletic build. Have you thought about competing? This is what we do here. These are the things on the wall. And it was a picture of Louise Rogers, who is now called Louise Cayenne, but at the time was the only girl to have got IFBB Figure Pro status from the UK at that time. So you can imagine, like, now there's so many of us that are, or so many people that are IFBB. She was like the only one. So for me, it was like she was the golden goose to kind of achieve. And that's what inspired me, was looking at her, you know, and thinking about, speaking to the guys. I started to learn about bodybuilding. I started to do my own research. And when I looked at sort of her shape, the X frame, the figure look, was, when I looked at myself, I was like, I can do that. That's what I look like. Obviously tiny, but that's my frame, and I can kind of flesh that out. That's what I wanted to do. And then that was it. I was just like, okay, I don't know how long this is going to take me to do this, but I want to build a body like that. So that was it.
It's interesting, quite early on in that, you said you needed the competitive element. That's similar to why I ventured into bodybuilding, because I had to retire from rugby. I was like, right, I should go to the gym, be fit and healthy, lose a bit of weight. And then all of a sudden I was like, I need something to work towards. I need someone to beat, or someone at least to go up against and compete against. So I think, and it's a theme that I find runs quite often in bodybuilding circles. Like they've left a team sport, or, you know, a form of structured competitive sport, and gone into the gym, and then they add the competitive element to working out with bodybuilding or powerlifting or weightlifting or whatever it may be.
Totally. I can't agree more. I think as well, like it was an outlet because I was so used to sort of pushing my body so much that I couldn't just like stop, if you know what I mean. I think if it hadn't have been bodybuilding, it would have been continuous like challenges and goals, like I said, the body fat one. Do you know what I mean? It would have been other things. It was so natural to me when I started to do it. And of course, then when I learned about the posing element and how, because for me, what attracted to me as well was you had this art of kind of building your body, training hard to do it. And then that blend of performance and stage presentation that I could bring my background, which I was so passionate still about, into. So for me, it was like a light bulb. It was like, this is great. I can do something that's going to train me really hard in a different way and challenge me, but at the same time, I can bring an element of that performance and stage presence that I just love. Yeah. So it was a good mix. That's what it was.
You got the best of both worlds there, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, that was pretty much the beginnings of what was to come, really.
Yeah, it's good with the dancing background because, I mean, you know, from working with me, like I am tone deaf. Like music is all just noise to me, and like I can't move to a beat or anything like that. So when it came to posing and stuff, although I had like the dancers' hands and things and the movements, to me I was just like couldn't do them at the right times. And having that dancing background, I think a lot of people don't realize how beneficial that is for bodybuilding and posing. Because you get a lot, particularly with guys, you get a lot of them come on stage and they're just like, boom, boom, here I am, I'm massive, just pose, pose, pose. And there's no like fluidity and showmanship to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, first of all, Don, you're being so hard on yourself. You were definitely one of the better guys that came into the studio, that's for sure.
You can come on this podcast again.
Anytime. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think what's really interesting to me, right, is if we take golden era bodybuilding and, you know, the reason why people and crowds loved Arnie was not just because he was freaking amazing to look at. His flow was phenomenal. Like his artistry was amazing. And you could say the same of a lot of the guys at that time, you know, and I think like I could sort of reel off a few, like Bob Harris, Lee Haney, all these guys, like they were absolutely obsessed by the creation of the art of it, not just the blocky, here I am, I'm just a massive bodybuilder. And then somewhere in between that, throughout the years, that kind of, I feel, has been lost. And and loads of people have kind of put this emphasis on, the chunky, thick muscle, the condition, but have lost this, the stage element of it. And, you know, you're rushed on stage, you're rushed off, and like, there isn't that anymore. And I can understand, like, you know, marketing purposes and the point of view of these federations now running like businesses, they're wanting to get like a lot of people in their shows. But for me, it's kind of, we're just starting to see now with the more posing coaches and more people focusing on that kind of element of it coming back. Are we still given enough time on stage to show that? Not really, but at least we're still now, we're putting much more emphasis on, we're looking for that cut above. It's not good enough now just to come on stage and stand in a front relax with your arms up here and, you know, you're riding the motorbike and you're doing everything else. You now actually have to make a real effort. And that's nice to see that come back in, because I feel like there was a big period of time where it was kind of lost for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think in my experience, you see sometimes there's an over-awarding of muscularity and density and just like, this guy's massive, you know, how can we not have him in placing? But then you watch back their posing routine and it's just the boom, 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 and there's no like fluidity and aesthetics to it. I don't know what it's like in the women's posing, but just from my experience of, you know, competing in the men's shows, I've certainly noticed that. Yeah. And as a more recent example, Kai Green, like, he has such a strong following and, you know, diehard fans because of his posing. You know, he'll climb up scaffolding and like pose to Atomic Kitten and stuff. Yeah. And you think he brings something completely different to this time period, but, you know, 30, 40 years ago, he'd have been right in the mix with them all, and, you know, that was how they approached it.
Yeah.
maybe a little less extreme.
I think that's the good thing about bringing the classic category in now, because you can't, when you look at a bodybuilder, you see the overmuscularity, you can't not be impressed by it. But at the same time, now you've brought in classic, like people like Terence Ruffin, who can just capture your attention like that. All of a sudden, you've got two separate categories that you can judge differently, and it's judged a lot more on posing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, that's a really good example, Matt, because the classic, I'm so pleased they brought the classic back, because it is, in essence, what I see as bodybuilding, that class. And it's an almost like it's still attainable, but you have to have an element of finesse, and you have to have those flowing lines. It's not just about the muscle in that class at all. It's the symmetry and it's the physicality of it. And for me, absolutely, it's nice to see that come back, and it's nice to see what you just mentioned there, something I always look for in the studio, which is what gives somebody that star quality that you're trying to actually look at. From, it would stop somebody walking down the back of the auditorium and go, bloody hell, he's amazing. Because there's that star quality that you just see some people have. Like, they capture the moment a little bit, they slow things down, they're dynamic when they need to be, but then they bring you in, and the expression is there, the physicality is there, and it's not just, again, I talk about this a lot, but like the expression of your face and how you're actually using that on stage as well. All those things matter, and people totally don't realize that. It's so undervalued. If posing is done well, and if you display your physique correctly, it can be, even if you don't take a placing, you'll be remembered. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a lot. There's a lot there. So if any of listeners have not done their posing, go and do your posing.
Yeah, I think it's, especially for first-time competitors, it's certainly something that's overlooked. And it was in my first competition. I remember my first show. Looking back at the photos now, I'm just like, oh my God, Dom, you're in good nick, but my God, you look terrible. I probably remembered for the wrong reasons.
I think that's the thing about when you do your first show, isn't it? Like, a lot of people try and do the first show by themselves, maybe to try and prove something to themselves, but then that's not thought about whatsoever. You won't think about your posing until the very last week. Like, oh yeah, I should probably do a posing routine now. When really, that's one of the first things you should be practicing.
And even practicing in the off-season when you're chunkier.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us will probably look back at our very first shows and think, oh my God, what was I doing? Like I do a podcast with a pro bikini competitor, and we talk about kind of the different classes and posing. And we were talking about the other day how when we started, so, back in 2012, honestly, it's that social media was only just really starting to kind of become like really massive, and
the better days.
So is this the old days where it's on like obscure internet forums and stuff?
Yeah.
Magazines.
Oh my God.
The original Jack 3D formula.
Like, I have a whole cupboard through there with Andrew's like old Flex magazines and everything. He was like the dawn of the magazine, right? I was the forum girl. Like, I was on Muscle and Fitness on their forums, and what was the other one that was run by a guy in, oh God, I can't even remember what it was called, Pro Muscle or whatever it was. I can't remember now. And anyway, it was one of those sorts of things where the only way you could communicate with it was with this, like, you had a little bubble of a face like there, and then your random name, and then you were just typing, and that was how we were doing it. And then so we were talking about this kind of how limited the information was about posing, and there was no posing coaches or anything like that. It wasn't even a thing. It was, you watched the people who did it before and you tried to emulate that. And luckily, obviously, I came from my background I was in, so it wasn't hard for me to pick up. But then at the same time, I look back at my first posing and I think, Jesus Christ, I'm the same as you, Dom. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Like, in my first show, I'm like, how did I place? Like, I'm stood there with, like, my front double bicep, I'm like that. I look like a chicken that's just been booted.
Fingers like here.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's an amazing topic, just posing itself, but just purely because every federation is expecting a different thing. And of course, that causes its own sort of issues, not issues in the sense that you can't do it. It's just that it's very difficult to have one linear understanding of what you need to and required to do for each class. And I think that's where people get really confused. You know, if it was up to me, I'd sort of collate all the bodybuilding federations and go, right, what is figure? What is classic? What is bodybuilding? What is open? What is physique? What is bikini? You know, so that you've got these set understandings of the posing so that they can all kind of communicate and there can be this linear understanding of it. But that's where the confusions lie, I think. And, you know, I'm forever having to research and learn the new poses because they're coming out all the time. Like, they're changing all the time, especially just now when if some federations are affiliated with others, like Two Bros affiliated with IFBB, UKDFBAs with WNBF, or now PNBA as of yesterday. And like, there's like a whole load of different federations changing their rules all the time that you have to keep your finger on the pulse. And that's why I always say, like, if you can get a coach and somebody you can work with alongside you on that, who's learning those things, it will help you not mess up. That's one thing I would say.
Do you find it's difficult when you've got a couple of different competitors going, like one's doing PCA, one's doing Two Bros, one's doing
Two Bros, BNBF,
something like that? Like, do you find it difficult to try and get them all on point for the different characteristics that each show would expect, or do you find you've kind of found a way to make it all fit together?
I've got my choreography nailed for each of the feds. So for me, teaching it's not a problem. It's more when I have a client in the space and I know they're doing 3 separate shows, I'm almost kind of saying to them, right, we might not be able to target all of these in today's session. To be honest, I'd rather just do, right, we're sticking with Two Bros because they're absolutely stickler for posing. If you're even a bit out, they're not happy. Same with UKBFF. But then, you know, the other ones, UKUP, PCA, the natural feds are different again, but those UKUP, PCA, well, you get away with a wee bit more. They're a wee bit more flexible. You can play with the poses a little bit more. So there's some that are really rigid and some that are really okay with a little bit of your own flair. And it's not difficult to teach that, but it's just being really careful that people don't forget and slide into one or another if they're going off to. It's more on the rigid federations, UKBFF, Two Bros, you know, they're expecting the IFBB rules to be stuck to, like, completely, or the NPC rules to be stuck to completely. So you've just got to be mindful of that, but that's
I suppose if you stick to the rigid ones and you nail the rigid ones perfectly, then that stands you in good stead in the ones that are a little bit more flexible anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because you can get away with being flexible once you know them. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then natural side of the coin, the natural shows are funny because, like, if I just take the figure class, for example, in BNBF, their figure does all of like the overhead poses and what essentially in Two Bros would be the physique class, the women's physique class. So for that show, and for UKDFBA and Fit Body, you're having to learn all these upper body poses where you would never need to do them. Normally it's just 4 quarter turns in a round circle and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. But yeah, that's where it's where you just, from a coaching perspective, you're just doing your research all the time to make sure that you're doing the right posing and then teaching it correctly. So yeah.
It would definitely help if there was a bit more like unity between the federations, wouldn't there? Because like I say, you've just named 2 federations. One, you've got the overhead poses, and the other you don't. And that's the difference between classes. So
it is.
How are you as an athlete going to decide, well, okay, I'll go with this one, but I'll go for this federation, I'll have to do a completely different class, and posing routine will be different for this and that, because their criteria are so blurred and grey in some areas.
It's
really quite difficult.
Yeah, totally, Dom. I mean, I think over the years, like if I make the reference to back in the day, you literally had figure, bodybuilding. That was it. You didn't even have the more aesthetic classes at the very dawn of the time. Then those started to come through, and I think where the confusion has come over the years is just with the injection of new classes, which was rightly so. There should be other classes coming through, but somewhere along that, you know, each fed has just decided to make their own class, their own name. And even though that you know, athletic figure in Two Bros is figure in BNBF, even that causes an issue, because what is athletic figure and what's figure? Well, actually, in those classes, in those federations, it's the same thing. But to somebody listening to that who has no idea, would think,
I'd assume there'd be a massive difference.
What is that? Yeah. What's the difference? And then of course they diversified even further in the last sort of 5 years, where we've now got tone, trained, athletic, this, that, the other, wellness, that, you know, there's so many now that and it's of course to cater for every type of person, which I understand again, but it's created exactly what you've just said, Dom, which is just this kind of confusion, and where exactly what you've said is one federation you're one class, another federation you're a totally different class. You know, I get super hard and conditioned, so I can't be toned figure in PCA, I have to be athletic figure. But if I didn't know that and I went into toned and I was too muscular, I might not have even placed. So like, you know, there's kind of all those sorts of nuances in it, but it's, again, it comes back to read your rules, read your fed, speak to people of the fed who know it inside out, and just make sure you're just doing what you have to do for that specific class. And if you have to change it up for another fed, you just have to do your due diligence on that as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of homework involved, isn't there? Because like I said, it's right that we're having these new categories because it's making the sport more accessible. You know, when I first started competing, I could never have gone into bodybuilding. You know, I had to start in men's physique. And then you can gradually grow and develop and progress and move categories. But I think if you had to just go straight in, like, this is, you know, the big boy category, you have to go bodybuilding, you have to be massive, you have to be lean, you have to be hard. I would never have got into the sport because I would have just looked at it and gone, nah, I'm never achieving that. But then they're also making it slightly less accessible because it's just so confusing. Maybe I'm just dumb.
No, I think you make a really valid point. Like, I think the main when I work with my clients, so a lot of my clients are first timers, and when we're talking about their contest prep and we're setting up their show seasons, usually the very first thing I hear is, it's so confusing. Can you help me work out where I need to be? And 9 out of 10 people coming and working with me, that's their first line. So if they're even struggling through using what we have as mainstream, like search engines, Google and everything else, to try and figure, and they're still finding it confusing, that sort of says to me, well, there's an obligation, like of federations and things, to be making this stuff super accessible and clear. So where is it going wrong? Because, you know, it's quite easy for anybody who's been in it to kind of say, I know what this is and I know what this is. Like, I can reel them off because I'm doing this every day. But for somebody who's maybe wanting to start the sport, but then sees how confusing it is, it might put them off. It might, exactly what you said, it might just put them off completely. I've got one girl who I was speaking to yesterday who was like, I just don't know where to begin. It's so overwhelming. I want to do this as a goal, but I just don't have a clue where to start. And she was like genuinely panicking about it, you know?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to feel like that going into for a new challenge.
There's enough stress when you start a new challenge in itself without having to worry about the end result as well. Like, just starting it should be the main stress rather than
totally
picking a show to do at the end of it. That should be the first easiest thing. Is right, they want that, I need to look like that, done.
Yeah.
Definitely be made a bit clearer, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So, good question. What does it take to turn pro as a natty athlete? Big question, that.
My magic supplement stack.
So dropping this week, use code Lumberjack for Pro Prep Coaching supplements.
Lumberjack here. Is this where you slot in like little codes around us?
Oh, they're being sage, yeah.
The title of the podcast is just our codes.
Every now and then it's just going to pop up.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a super big question. If I sort of take like the bones of it, I mean, obviously there is an element of genetics going to be involved in a natural competitor getting to a pro level. And there is then, of course, on top of that, the building blocks of just pure consistency for years and years and years and years. So, I mean, I talk to people about, like so many people, I put a post up actually, I think it was 2 days ago, showing my comparisons from my amateur prep to my pro prep, my most recent pro prep, and the differences in sort of my weight throughout that, and what have been the kind of key things that I've done to get to that pro level. since 2012, I've trained probably 5 or 6 days a week without fail. I've eaten my food and I've continuously progressed. And that's kind of the, dare I say it, the very boring truth of it. It's like that is it. It's progressive overload over time with vision to create something that you want to create with, you know, of course I've had balance and times off and things like that, but training has always been my life, and it's something that I love so much that even if you took bodybuilding out of the question, I'd still be doing it. I'd still be like, you know, in the gym Monday to Friday doing my thing, working on myself, because for my mental health, it's just, I can't describe how much it's given me. It's given me a whole career, and it's given me resilience to be able to deal with a lot of problems that I've had over the years as well. You know what I mean? Like when we just go through the trials and tribulations of your life. So for me, like there's that consistency obviously, and then there's got to be goals setting throughout that as well. Like you can't just kind of get to a pro level status without having set points throughout that. You know, I started off this journey thinking I want to win a British finals. But then when I got to the British finals, slowly to a British finals, I sort of thought, I've got to set my goal higher than this. And I've got to start thinking about setting my goal higher than this in order for me to push at the level I want to get to a pro status. And then that's where my mindset shifted and leveled up. So there was a whole psychological pattern that's going alongside the training to get to where you want to be. So in essence, it's nothing special. It's just, I guess, having had a long time of dance and performing background. You know, I've been dancing since I was 2 years old. By the time I was 10, I was at a boarding school training 5 times a week dancing, you know. So there's been a lot of training before I've started bodybuilding that I think, you know, when people look at my physique and they go, you're not natty, I'm like, well, you have to kind of look at my background and you sort of have to see what I've done, and then you might realize that this is just my journey. This is how I've got here. So does that kind of answer that question?
Yeah, it's like you've been disciplined for so long. Like discipline must now be a second nature to you. So now it's just relentless consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally, now it's not even discipline. Now it's just this is who you are. This is how you live. Almost.
Yeah, and I kind of like you saying it like that, because so many people, because for me it is lifestyle. It totally is. Like I love it, and it's just training is everything to me. So it doesn't seem unnatural to me, the goals I've set and where I've got to go. And the reason I wanted to do this naturally was because, well, first of all, in my very first walking into that gym, I remember the first guy I spoke to was a natural guy, and I was in the right place at the right time, and I learned about natural bodybuilding straight off the bat. So for me, it was like there was no other reason. There's nothing else. Do you know what I mean? That was what I was going to do. So, and I mean, of course, I know all about the assisted side of the sport, and in kind of a way, natural bodybuilding came secondary to that. You know, natural bodybuilding was born many years after bodybuilding as such. So it's still really unknown. Like a lot of people still don't know that there's natural bodybuilding in the world that you can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, as soon as you say bodybuilding, like, what steroids do you take? Like,
yeah.
Is protein a steroid?
Yeah, totally. It's just like it's a stereotype, you know. It's like there's still a stereotype around it, and especially as a female, like when you go to say, oh, I'm a bodybuilder, like to what I call a normie, and they'll look at you like,
I like that.
Oh my god. I'm talking to like somebody who's jacked on steroids and everything else, and
I'm gonna get roid rage if I say anything now. Yeah
I know, right?
Nice,
but I'm so used to those conversations, and I'm so used to the lack of education around it, you know, because people are not, you can't expect everybody to know, because this is such a niche thing that we do, and such a niche thing that I know, well, that I do, you know. Still, all my mates know I do this, of course. I work with people, I'm in this field, this is what I do, but I still come across people that when I talk about it, you can see their face like not sure how to even deal with the information I'm giving them, you know. And some people are going to get it, some people won't, and the people that won't, well, just because of a lack of education, and they don't know, and you can't change everybody's mind on things, you know?
No.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think when you're in the fitness industry bodybuilding bubble, you forget that there's people that know nothing about bodybuilding. So then when you speak to someone normal, you're saying like what you do on a daily basis and all this kind of stuff, they're just looking at you like, but why?
Yeah, they're like,
why?
Then I find it goes both ways, because if they describe their lifestyle, to a bodybuilder, I sit there going, but why?
Yeah.
Like, even like some of my colleagues at work, they're like runners or cyclists and stuff. So I think similar mentalities of that, you need to have the top 2 inches to make yourself suffer and grind it out, but just in a very different way to bodybuilding. And we'll describe our training regimes and stuff to each other, and both of us will sit there and just go, that sounds horrible. I would not like to do that.
Yeah.
I know.
We're still all like pushing and grinding and making ourselves suffer for an end goal, just in very different styles.
Exactly. I think as well, though, it's funny because like you take the normal average person who might do like their work through the week, they eat flexibly, they do what they want, then they go out and they drink all weekend, do whatever else, and that's okay. But it's not okay to live, a really healthy lifestyle, eat really healthily, go to the gym a few times a week. And there's this kind of, if I was to say to somebody, oh, I'm a fitness model, they'd be like, oh, right, cool. What does that involve? But when I say to somebody, oh, I'm a bodybuilder, it's like, they don't connect the health and fitness side to it at all.
Oh, that's really unhealthy, that, isn't it? Like,
that's one of the first assumptions people make, isn't it?
Isn't that
ignore the fact that you meticulously control your calorie intake and you consider all the nutrients you're giving your body, you're exercising and you're taking supplements to make sure you're healthy. No, just the fact you're competing as a bodybuilder, you're instantly killing yourself.
Yeah, it's like you're instantly unhealthy or something. Yeah. And that really bothers me sometimes because I'm like, the thing is to become a bodybuilder, there's this whole thing that you have to do, like you have to be fit, you've got to be healthy, you've got to do your training, you've got to eat well. But then it's not any other fault than the stereotype that it's still that old school bodybuilding equals steroids. Yeah. It's still like that, and it's breaking that down. And I think actually one thing the introduction of classes that are more attainable have done is pull away from that stereotype. And that's like a really good thing, because especially for females in this industry, like we get so much shit for bodybuilding. It's crazy, like, why do you want to look like that? Why do you want to build muscles? It's so unfeminine. You look like a man, all these sorts of things. And I'm sort of like, I definitely don't look like a man. I feel quite happy in my own skin. I feel like quite feminine. My whole thing around bodybuilding is empowering and a strong aesthetic look for females to feel, like confident in themselves and happy in themselves. And that's kind of my whole thing that I push, when I'm talking to people about why I do what I do, is because it makes me feel great. And I love the way I look. I love training. I love all those things. And I'm not I'm not a conventional woman, if you still want to be societal, but we need to break away from these conditioned boxes that putting people in. Do you know what I mean? It's so common now for women want to go and train hard and look strong and have a bit of tone and all that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, strong's the new skinny. I noticed a few years ago, it became very fashionable to be into the gym and into fitness, didn't it? And then all of a sudden, like when Gymshark clothing came out, like that was like the new Hollister and Jack Wills. Like you had to be seen in Gymshark clothing, and the whole like fitness idea very very suddenly was like, that's cool. That's what we need to aspire to.
Yep, exactly. Yep, strong not skinny. Use that hashtag many a time. Yeah.
Well, what's the next question, Matt?
Next one is, it's a difficult one because obviously you've got to where you are and you've been quite successful. If we play it down a little bit, you've been quite successful. But if you could go back and advise your younger self on what to do, is there anything that you would change or anything that you would do a little bit differently apart from maybe like tweak your posing? Is there anything when you started out you wouldn't do this time?
Yeah, I think and it's more of a psychological thing. I think I would have, two things. I would have been more open with the people around me about why I was bodybuilding. I kept it very insular.
Yeah.
And I think instead of like allowing people to share it or speak to people about it, I almost believed in the stereotype myself, so I hid away. I got scared about kind of telling people that I'm this woman bodybuilding. And I wish I'd been more open about that, because I think by being closed off about it, I pushed people away.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing I would do differently. And the other thing I'd do differently is believe in myself a little bit more. Surprisingly, like I'm not like, although I'm quite an open communicator, I get very, I'm very, very hard on myself. So I never really think I'm good enough, you know, or certainly I didn't back then. I'm certainly working on that now. But I think back then in my early days, I would have given myself a little bit more credit for the discipline and kind of the hard work and the things that I was doing. So those are two things I think, being more open with people and being a little bit more confident in myself would be two things I would like to have maybe had more of the time.
Yeah, cool.
It's very easy to shut yourself off as a bodybuilder. If none of your friends are into the sport either, especially, it can become very isolating very quickly, can't it?
Yeah, it could be a lonely.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. You know, I was that girl in a group of people that none of my mates did this. None of them could understand why I was in the gym. I was in a more corporate environment at that point as well. You know, and it was all that kind of take my meals to work, and it's the people looking over like, what's she doing kind of thing. And instead of just being like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and it would have made it so much easier, I'd just be like, I'd get resentful about it instead. I'd be like, stop bothering me, you know, like just leave me alone. Whereas I think the opposite's actually going to make the journey as a first-time bodybuilder a lot easier if you're in normal groups. If you're in groups with people where everybody gets it, it's a bit different. But yeah, hopefully that's a bit of advice to anyone listening if they feel like that. I tell this to my clients all the time. Tell people around you what you're doing, set the expectations, and then honestly, it will be so much easier for you, because that person who's telling you eat that bit of chocolate cake already knows not to tell you to eat that bit of chocolate cake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they help if you vocalize your goals to your friends and family. They help to keep you accountable for it as well, don't they? It's like my closest friends aren't bodybuilders, with the exception of Lucy, but none of them understand it and none of them get it, but they get that it's me and it's my life. Yeah. So if I come out to the pub and I'm not drinking, no one questions it. No one will say, oh, do you want some biscuits? Just have one, it can't hurt. Because they know the answer is going to be no, I don't want it.
That's something though, if you can make them understand, then they can help. If they don't know, then they're just going to do what they assume to be normal. So it's about sort of conditioning the people around you to be able to help rather than hinder.
Yeah. And most of the time, people are going to be okay with it, because, you know, I'll come out with you and have fun with you, but I'm not going to stop you drinking. It's just I don't want to drink myself. Yeah. But, you know, I'll still come and have a good time with you, and you can drink all you want. And most people, initially, they're a bit like, ooh, what? But then 2 beers in, they're like, give a fuck!
More beer for me.
Exactly. Cheap round.
Cheap. Yeah, I bet you are a cheap round. I'll have a water, please.
I'm a very cheap date, because when I do drink, it is 1 or 2, and I'm like, ooh, I've had a beer.
I know, exactly.
I had 3 beers yesterday. Once again, I was steaming.
Same. It was at rugby yesterday. I had 2 beers in the first half, and I was just like, oh, God, I need to sit down. I'm fucked. Oh, no.
Mate, I was bollocksed. It was ridiculous. Right, so moving on. I've only got a couple more questions for you, Steff, and then we'll let you get off and sort your clients and stuff for the rest of the day. This is the supplement podcast. So what supplements do you use, obviously, if any? And are there any that you would recommend to your natural clients compared to your assisted clients, if you've got the difference?
Yeah. And on the flip side, any that you would say definitely avoid for your clients? You know, any that you think, no, it's a complete waste of money, don't spend any on that. Just make sure we don't stock it.
Be honest. We're all about honesty at Lumberjack Subs.
Totally. So being a natural athlete is quite difficult, because I mean, I say difficult. There's not a lot of supplements that you can take. You know, first of all, the whole premise of being natural is to try and minimize as much taking anyway of anything. Secondly, the key thing there is, if it's on the WADA banned list, it's not in the plan. So, you know, there's, as you guys probably know, there's hundreds of substances on the WADA banned list that you're not allowed to have. And so the main things I always tell my clients to watch out for in terms of products where they would find those substances would be in things like pre-workouts, because there's always hidden little things sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
That you've got to...
Your Inbine's a big one, isn't it?
Your Inbine, yeah.
A lot of pre-workouts now.
Yeah, exactly. So you've obviously got that, and I'd say that really the two main products that you're trying to be looking out for those kind of ingredients are, your pre-workouts and fat burners and things like that. You need to be really mindful of things like that. Apart from that, you can get away with most, proteins and creatines and all your other supplements, as long as you're just, again, double checking it. The in-sport stickers, obviously, that are going to be on your brands are going to be helpful for you to point out the ones that are used by sporting teams or wherever else, to know that they're okay to use as well from a brand point of view. So my supplements, so shameless plug, but I am a Bodytronics sponsored athlete. So Bodytronics, although are probably not as mainstream for a lot of people, I have been down to their labs in 2010 and 2014. I wanted to see how the products were made. I wanted to I've been part of the brand since I started. I've been with them, nearly 8-9 years now. I love their products. I use their protein, their creatine, their vitamin C powder, their ZMA. What others do I use? I've got a pre-workout with theirs, which is fine for natural competitors, called Red Mist. And their stuff's really good. The other brand I use is not really so much of a sport brand. It's not a bodybuilding sports brand. It's just a health brand called HealthSpan, which is, you guys have probably heard of HealthSpan. HealthSpan, I use like their main kind of staples, like their fish oils, vitamin C, vitamin D3, B12, and just a variety of like joint health ones, supplement like chondroitin, glucosamine, all of those kind of things. And yeah, I'm pretty basic. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not excited on the supplement.
That's what we like to try and instill in people anyway, is master the basics, like in all aspects. So nutrition, training and supplements, master the basics first, and then you can start playing around with some outlandish shit. But you've got to get the basics nailed first. So get a good creatine, get a good glutamine, get your multivitamins in, get your omegas in. Then last on the list could really be a pre-workout. Well. Like the first thing you should be choosing is not a pre-workout, in my opinion, because you can train without a pre-workout. Like you can get a good session in without a pre-workout. You can't work optimally if you're not nailing all your macros.
Yeah, you're right. Diet first. Diet
for me.
Yeah.
Diet, hydrate, sleep, then we can talk supplements.
Yeah, 100%.
At least a gem pot where like these sort of things can be very easily fixed.
Yeah, we're trying to take away from I know it's a mass marketed business, but we're trying to take away from the whole, you should take this before you even consider, you know what I mean? You need to think about what you're doing first and get everything perfect before you even consider using supplements. We want to be a secondary option or a third option rather than being, I need this to make me better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like a psychological thing, especially in our field, and I think it comes down to when you see people, on social media a lot of the time, you see the perfect physique or whatever, people automatically have this, what are they taking to look like that, rather than what are they doing to look like that, and I think there is that kind of, and it's like everything, people want the latest product. They want the latest thing that might eke a little bit more or help a little bit of this or help a little bit of that. But you're absolutely right. Food first is really where you're going to get the majority of your multivitamins, your minerals, your good stuff. And then research evidence-based supplementation on top of that to top up. Creatine is like my staple for everything because we know it works. We know it works. It is genuinely something you can take, knowing fully that's going to help you with recovery, fully it's going to help you with muscle building, and it's just, you know, all round top up of what we already have.
Yes.
And sort of, I always say to people, like, exactly what you guys have just said, and to my clients as well, that the simple stack should be your staples, which we've gone over, which are the ones that I take anyway. An evening stack might be something more for reducing cortisol, levels down, resting, recovery, sleep aid, you know, that kind of thing. And then anything else.
Right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then the rest of it is then, once, like exactly you said, then you can maybe go, okay, I'd really like to try a pre-workout just to see the difference, you know, between maybe my basic caffeine that I take and maybe just that extra boost you might get from the beta alanine or whatever else is in it, you know, and see what kind of comes from that. And I've got clients who love it, and I've got clients who hate it. You know, they hate that feeling, and some clients who absolutely love that feeling. So, and of course, then they're distinguishing between, do we want one non-pump? Do we want one with a pump? What do we want? Do we want stimulant? Do we not want stimulant? All these different questions then start to play a part. And I know there's hundreds of different ones on the market.
So many options now. Like you can literally, if you were to look online, you could see exactly what you want for your specific goal. Like you can have some stim, some pump, some nootropic, some pump. No stim. There's literally any option you can think of now.
It's not that long ago that a pre-workout was just like beta-alanine, caffeine. Here you go.
Yeah.
Gold standard optimum nutrition pre-workout.
Oh, I still remember their pink lemonade flavour that tasted nothing like pink lemonade.
I remember sniffing a line of the pineapple flavour. It was awful. It was rancid.
Fun fact, he's still not slept since he did that.
Yeah. Hideous. I had pineapple drip back for like a day.
Oh, gross.
Hideous.
Yeah, I think you're the only one here that's done that, mate.
Mate, give it a try. It's banging. It'll shorten your life.
I've not really sold it, to be honest.
I've got a whole ton of clients who just dry, knock it back, no water at all, and I don't know how to do that. That's
what I do.
I'm gonna blow some minds now. It's actually not as beneficial to do that, because the ingredients that we have in a pre-workout, they respond to water, and they work a lot better with water. So the more water you drink with it, you would actually want quite a full shaker full of water to get the best effects from it.
You see, I put the scoop in, take a glug of water and then just shake my head about and then swallow it.
Bang the water in, mate. Bang the water in, because it's going to work a lot better. It's going to take a better effect. Especially if you're taking a pre-workout and you're like, oh, it's not really hit me this well. It's because you've dry scooped it. Take it.
You're not doing my dishes, mate. Got to save on the washing up somehow.
Yeah. To all my clients who I know will watch this, you're not as hardcore as you think you are now. Sorry.
Yeah, it actually doesn't work as well. Yeah. Okay, we've got one more question for you.
Okay.
So what are your plans for the rest of 2021 going into 2022? So in terms of maybe what you've got planned for your business or for yourself in terms of competing, what's going on?
Okay, cool. So pro prep, from the business side of things, I've got a team of 26 coming in for shows towards the end of the year. So I'm very excited about working with my guys, and they're my life. I'm all in for them this year. It's about last year and this year was about bringing my teams through this crazy world, and I wanted to give everything to my business. So for me, the idea of competing right now is not on the cards, but I have just started to plan my competition season for 22, so that is going to be where I compete again. So I'm very excited about that. I might be doing things slightly differently this year in terms of I've kind of reached the pinnacle of next year. I've kind of reached the pinnacle of the natural circuit, if you like. So I might just start to think about testing my abilities on bigger stages to see how I fare. So I'm really looking forward to that, because it's kind of the dream for me is to eventually stand up on the big girl stage, I call it, kind of just to see how I fare. So I dipped my toe in the water with NABA in 2019 and I took 4th place at the Universe, and I was like amazed by that, because I thought it was going to be absolutely dominated, if I'm honest, but that was amazing. Came away from the Universe, felt a little bit more confident in my ability to stand with hang with those girls. So I'm going to see how I go in 22. So that's my contest plans, and it's all about business right now. It's all about bringing the team in the best they can, supporting them. We've got a really big team ethos. So I'll be going down with the teams and we do our thing. We like get apartments, we do it all together, and we really kind of go all in. So that's what I'm doing. That's Excellent.
Me. That's giving me one more question for you, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, you said you stood on stage with the big girls.
Yeah.
And you placed 4th. Let's say 2022, you do the same again and you feel you're not just at their level. Will you go back to just doing your natural federations, or would you consider the option of being assisted?
I mean, I would say that the question it's a curious question.
Yeah, it's not a deep question. It's just a what if.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always very, very honest with my thought process as a figure competitor, because I don't think it would be, what's the word? I don't think there's probably any competitor, even natural ones, that it hasn't at some point crossed their mind to go, I wonder what I'd look like if I was just a little bit bigger, you know? The question has popped into my mind before, but there's a few things that have always kind of been ahead of that as a priority, and that is my female health is extremely important to me. So I might want to be a mom one day, and I might have, you know, I don't have the want to go that extra mile, I think, at this point, for the sake of proving I can do it, you know, on stage, like being a bigger version of myself.
Yeah.
That might change if my priorities change, but I feel like I've proven myself to the best natural ability I can. And I think for me, if I can take a close top 3 on an unnatural stage, that's good enough for me right now.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that, like that I can be up there and a contender, and you know, you're always trying to beat the last version of yourself. And if I can do that, and bring a slightly more volumed package, a bit more condition, and nail my posing, just kind of step up that way. I might not take the top place, but I might make a little dent for the natural ladies that are trying, you know. Yeah. And it's not undoable, by the way, because there's two natural figure girls from last year. Claire Burton, she stepped on the 2 bro stage and took the 1st place in Masters figure, so she's natural. So you know, it's not undoable. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, sweet. I was just curious, to be honest, just being nosy.
It's not a bad one. Everyone always asks me, like, when are you going to do Steff?
When are you joining the dark side? Is my favourite.
Dark side. I'm like, well,
I keep asking Dom that, but he's a bitch.
I'm still on a student budget here, mate.
Yeah, I mean, there's that side of it as well.
Yeah, it's
an
expensive little.
But I don't know. Yeah, it's not something that I'm particularly like motivated in doing at this kind of point, but I'll be sure to let you know. You'll probably see the change.
Yes. Our first announcement, we'll get you in for another podcast and we'll watch you do your first jab.
That might be a little bit too full frontal, but yeah.
Depends where you jab. You can do the shoulder. Right.
Exactly.
It's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been great to catch up with you.
And we will we'll try and get you on again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Best of luck with your team with competing this year.
Good luck, Team Pro Prep.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of medals and trophies coming home.
100%. Like last year, we need to just bring it. So that's what we're on.
Best of luck with it. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.
See you later.
See ya.